Well, hello everybody. I am Louise Edington. I am the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, and I'm very grateful to be here on Nadiya Shah's YouTube channel. Nadiya invited me, very generously invited me to create a video for her followers on her YouTube channel, because Nadiya is probably the nicest person in the world and extremely generous to other astrologers. So, as I said, I'm Louise Edington. I am an astrologer and writer, the author of 2 books, The Complete Guide to Astrology, which is actually number 4 of all books on Amazon.com right now, and Modern Astrology. And I'm very proud of them both. And you can also find me at Cosmic Owl Astrology everywhere on social media. So today I want to talk to you about Eris. And why did I pick Eris? Well, I am fascinated with this new classification of dwarf planets. Since Eris discovery, there's been a lot more discovered. There's been Haumea, there's been Makemake, there's been Sedna, there's several. There's a lot. There's Ixion, an awful lot of dwarf planets. And to my mind, they are expanding our known cosmos and therefore our consciousness and knowledge as we step forward into what is really a new paradigm, the age of Aquarius. Nobody knows when that starts, and I do not want to get into that discussion because in my opinion, it's we leave the age of Pisces and enter the age of Aquarius over a great period of time. But that's a subject for another day. So I have a presentation for you. It's something I started developing about 2 or 3 years ago, but I've expanded it. I've got to know Eris a lot more. So I'm going to share my screen and get presenting and teach you all that I know about Eris. Okay. So, Eris. Oh, I don't want to go to the mythology. I've called it shaking tables and naming the elephant in the room. And this image at the bottom just cracked me up. This is so Eris to my mind. She's like an elephant coming in, and but she's also like the person who sees the elephant in the room and sees the chaos, causes the chaos, or sees the chaos that the elephant is causing. Okay, and I'll talk more about that. So to my mind, she is both the chaos bringer and the revealer of the underlying chaos. Okay. Now, also this apple, the apple is very relevant to Eris, as you'll see. And Eris tends to have this fiery, burn it up kind of quality. She actually reminds me very much of the character Lisbeth in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series of books and the movie. One of my favorite series of books of all times. The character Lisbeth was very much an outsider, very punky, very a little bit angry, vengeful, like been left out, been hurt. And this reminds me of Eris very much. So I want to give you a couple of quotes. Our real discoveries come from chaos, from going to the place that looks wrong and stupid and foolish. And that's by Chuck Palahniuk, I hope I'm saying his name right, who wrote Invisible Monsters. And another one from my favorite philosopher of mine, discord on one level is harmony on another. And that's from Alan Watts. Now, a few kind of technical details. As I said, she was discovered in 2005. She was named in 2006. She has an orbital period of 560 years. And you can see that Eris has a very erratic kind of, well, not erratic, but she has a very unusual orbit. Until Neptune was discovered, all the planets moved around in a circle in our solar system around the sun. Then Pluto was discovered, and Pluto moves in a circular motion, but he moves in a circular motion that is unusual. And since he's been reclassified, as I will mention in a minute, that kind of fits with this discordant kind of energy. But then Eris, really discordant. And since then, we've moved on to many other discoveries of dwarf planets, as I said. She was originally named Xena by discoverer Mike Brown, and Xena, warrior princess, was played by Lucy Lawless in the you can't make this stuff up kind of department, because you could say that Eris is a very lawless energy. She spends a full quarter of her orbit of her transit in the sign of Aries, and she entered the sign of Aries in 1926-27. She went back and forth a little bit, and therefore most people alive have Eris in Aries. She's 27% more massive than Pluto, but in terms of the big picture, they're very similar. Her discovery as the 10th planet was earth-shattering or discordant because it caused I'm actually going to change this to the reclassification of Pluto to dwarf planet and the reclassification of asteroid number 1, Ceres, to dwarf planet also. And I kind of feel that that's very relevant. I've actually done a presentation or two on Ceres also, and I will be doing some more this year. So if you follow my Facebook page, you will, Cosmic Owl Astrology, you will see these presentations as they come up. So her mythology, now, we can't go by the mythology for everything, but with the newly discovered planets, the mythology often does tend to show up in the energy of the planetary body. And Eris was the Greek goddess of chaos and strife and discord. There's a couple of different myths, as in a lot of these older myths. She was the daughter of Nyx, the primordial goddess of night, and therefore no father. Or she was the sister of Ares and the daughter of Hera and Zeus, the king and queen of the gods. The judgment of Paris led to the Trojan War. This is where Eris was not invited to a wedding of the elites. Okay, and all the gods and goddesses, all the beautiful people, all the acceptable face of the elites were at this wedding, and Eris was not happy because she hadn't been invited. So she showed up at the wedding with an apple that inscribed with the words "to the fairest" or "most beautiful." The Greek translation could say either. It could also mean "to the fairest," meaning who's fair. Well, either way, this led to the gods and goddesses fighting about who was the most beautiful, and Zeus gave the decision making of who was the most beautiful to Paris, and his judgment led to him asking for he said Aphrodite was. She gave him Helen of Troy, who happened to be married, and anyway, it led to the Trojan War. So, Eris has been blamed for starting the Trojan War all this time. In my opinion, she didn't start the war. She caused the chaos that started the war. The gods and goddesses chose to fight amongst themselves, and kind of this is what Eris does. She goes, look, you are vain, you are elites, you are not of the people, the normal people, and I'm going to show up your artifice. And that's what she does. So some keywords for Eris: liberation, discord, revealer of artifice. She's a renegade, she's lawless, she's a bit reckless, she's strife, she's both fairness and unfairness. She's a whistleblower, a table shaker, poetic justice. She takes a stand. She is a facade remover. She is the trickster. She has that kind of trickster energy, kind of, I'm going to throw this trick into the mix. She's a marginalized, the uninvited and the unheard. She is very much an outsider, and she is very much the other. And she is an upsetter of apple carts, and she is both the elephant in the room and the revealer of the elephant in the room, or the namer. So this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she is a freshman, well, I guess still a freshman till next time. She just got re-election. Congresswoman in the USA, who was a barmaid, but also is quite highly educated, but she worked as a barmaid. She was a political activist who entered politics, and she's a Latino, so she's a woman of color as well. So in many ways, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is an outsider, a marginalized person. And this is an actual quote from AOC, as she's known. Oftentimes, the most righteous thing you can do is shake the table. And her election really has kind of launched a whole new raft of outsiders like her in Congress. There's people like Cori Bush and Raphael Warnock. They're all table shakers. They're all outsiders. They're all marginalized people in their own way. And just as Eris discovery launched the discovery of all these other dwarf planets. So I find them, she's kind of a real amazing example of Eris energy, and her chart shows that she has a really powerful Eris. So at the bottom of her chart here at 16 degrees Aries is her Eris. It's in a powerful cardinal grand cross with Chiron in Cancer and Jupiter over here in Cancer as well. Also, it's opposing Mars in Libra and Juno, who is also represents marginalized people or the rights of the oppressed. And Mars is will and drive and energy. Chiron is key to healing. Then over here we have Vesta in Virgo, which is about being of service and of use and keeping the flame burning. And an Eris, AOC represents this energy so much. Cardinal grand crosses are change bringers, and she has this amazing cardinal energy in her chart. As well, she has her moon opposing Mercury and squaring Ceres and squaring Uranus. She is a table shaker supreme. But here is Eris over here in Aries, shaking those tables and calling it out. And she was one of the first Congress people to like do Instagram Live and talk about what like onboarding in Congress was like. You don't have to agree with her views. This is This is how Eris is showing up in our society right now. So on Eris's discovery in 2005, Charles, Prince of Wales, married Camilla Parker Bowles, his long love, and that shook up the monarchy a great deal. We had Hurricane Katrina. We know what happened in New Orleans to that. Angela Merkel became the first female chancellor of Germany. Condoleezza Rice, a woman of color, was the first African American to become Secretary of State. Hurricane Wilma became the most intense Atlantic hurricane on record, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected president of Liberia, the first woman to lead an African country. Now, I don't know if you've noticed a theme here, but there's a woman named after a woman, a woman, a woman, a woman, and a woman. Now, when Eris moved into Aries at 26, 27, really, women's voting rights and women's liberation really kind of launched. And we didn't even know of Eris's existence at that point. And a planetary body's existence tends to show up more in human consciousness after discovery. So we can see her powerful influence back then. Now it's becoming even stronger. So I love this quote about Eris. Unlike Mars, who will fight to impose, Eris fights to expose, and that's by Sarah Varkas. So this picture, I love this picture of Eris too. She is angry, but it's righteous anger to my mind. A couple of quotes about Eris. Philip Sedgwick, who has explored the dwarf planets quite a lot, says, I see the Eris personality as one who brings in new ideas, new concepts that challenge our rapidly becoming outmoded thinking and concepts. In our personal charts, Eris can challenge us to embrace the new so that we are morphed in the process. I see Eris as a benefic, albeit a challenging benefic. And talking about challenging us to embrace the new in personal charts, I have Eris in my 3rd house in aspect to my Saturn in Capricorn, my Mars in Sagittarius, my Venus-Neptune midheaven conjunction in Scorpio, and my Pluto in Virgo. All of those planets are aspected in my chart, and it's in my 3rd house. And my book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, which I'm most proud of, my latest book, invites people to think differently. And the 3rd house is very much about perceptions and thinking. So you can't make this stuff up. And I didn't say that while thinking about Eris, that just came. Another quote, the discord and disruption that Eris creates often results in a positive outcome in the longer term because disrupting events can catalyze significant shifts in our lives that we would not otherwise initiate on our own, shifts that lead to more appropriate outcomes. Okay, so Nick Anthony Fiorenza. So both these quotes really align with my feeling that Eris is a bringer of good chaos ultimately. Okay. The number 23. Why the number 23? Well, lots of reasons. Eris is spending much of last year and this year at 23 degrees. It's also known as her number. And it's also in numerology, the most powerful number. But there's lots of reasons why. So the Discordianists worship Eris. They believe that 23 is holy and associated with Eris. There were 23 grandmasters who composed the Knights Templar, looking for the Holy Grail. 23 pairs of chromosomes in human beings. Normal physical biorhythm for human beings is 23 days. It's known as a portal for weirdly magical chaos. William Burroughs, for example, talks about it. The number of articulations in the human arm is 23. One thing I forgot to mention is we have 23 digits, 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears, and a nose. 23 axioms in the geometry of Euclid, and the circulation of blood through all the human body takes 23 seconds. So you can see that it's a very human number there as well, very associated with our humanness. So Eris in Aries, she's around from 2627 through till 2048. The 19th Amendment was ratified in 1920 as Eris approached Aries, giving women the vote. Flappers in the 1920s threw off Victorian ideas of womanhood, dropped the corset, chopped their hair, and dropped the concept of dating. The concept of dating came like powerful women. It was the first generation of more independent women. For a long time, at least. Margaret Sanger made strides in providing contraception to women, and women's liberation has increased since. The Pluto-Eris cycle, I think, is really, really important to all the things that are happening in our consciousness, in our society, on our Earth right now. The cycle began in 1756 and at 18 Sagittarius, and it was the start of the 7 Years' War. And remember, and also, if you think about it, the USA was gained independence in 1776. So the Pluto Eris cycle really kind of aligns with that tumultuous time leading up to the Declaration of Independence. So we've got a lot going on more in the USA, I think, and in the world as well, but the USA particular, we can see a lot of chaos right now. The first quarter square went from 1907 to 1911 and had 9 exact squares, and there was a lot going on during that time. And it was from 24 to 26 Gemini Pisces. So we had Sagittarius, Gemini Pisces, mutable, change. There was a run on the banks. You can read this. You can see that we had an assassination. The big fireball comet or meteoroid landed in Russia. Ford's Model T Ford, the car was launched. Einstein's quantum theory of light, she shook up our world with this first quarter square. Her and Pluto, the big planet of transformation, the discovery of the North Pole, Dalai Lama fleeing Tibet, and South Africa independence from the UK. Now, the opposition was 1976 to 1978 in air and fire. So we had Eris in Libra back then and Pluto in Aries, and we had 5 exact oppositions. Okay. Sorry, that's the other way around. Pluto was in Libra, and of course, Eris was in Aries. So here we have the first cardinal square, okay, in 76 to 78 with 5 exact oppositions. Apple Computers was founded, shook up the world of computing. Eradication of smallpox was amazing. And women, again, Barbara Walters was the first female nightly network news anchor. The last quarter square we're having right now, it's January 26th to 2020 till October the 8th, 2021 at 23 degrees and 24 degrees Capricorn to Aries with 5 exact squares. And look what we're having: pandemic, riots, insurrection, Brexit, general chaos. Okay. And here are the exact squares for you. The Pluto Eris squares, I should have said. Okay. So they were January the 26th last year, June the 14th, 2020, December the 10th, 2020, and in 2021, 2 more squares, August the 27th to 2021, and October the 8th, 2021. And you can see that the first square was at 23 degrees, that very human number. And the middle square, which I often find the most powerful, was when we have these major cycles of squares. The middle one seems to bring the most change. And that was at 23. And also the number was reversed. Now, 23 is a 5, just quick note, numerology. This was 5-5 and this was 5-5. So lots of change, lots of chaos. 5 is the number of change as well. So Pluto Eris is bringing in the change along with other things, of course. Now another chart, Chelsea Manning. She has Eris at 15 degrees of Aries, just a degree before AOC's. But look at this. She has it in the first house, conjunct Jupiter. And this is a really powerful position for Eris, the first house, conjunct Jupiter, the planet that expands everything that it touches. All right. And it's in a quincunx aspect to Chelsea Manning's Mars, Moon, Pluto conjunction in the 8th house. And so that's really shaking up and investigating and revealing in Pluto in Scorpio in the 8th house, revealing secrets and things. So, you know, that aspect is very strong, quincunx, which is in itself a break-free aspect. So Chelsea, Eris conjunct Jupiter, big whistleblower, some of her quotes. I really don't care how I am perceived by people on the outside. People with strong Eris really think your opinion of me does not matter. I want people to see the truth regardless of who they are, because without information, you cannot make informed decisions as a public. So she's the whistleblower, revealing the truth and information. And she said, I prefer a painful truth over any blissful fantasy. And I lived a few miles outside of a tiny town in central Oklahoma. I would often run amok through the fields of wheat, the patches of trees, along the railroad tracks, and on red dirt roads. This had a profound effect on my view of the world. Vast, open-ended, full of opportunity, and ready for explanation. So that really feels like Eris to me. Born a few miles, or lived a few miles outside. She was outside of, in an outsider state already. It's kind of, and she runs amok. Okay. You can't make these words up. These are all very Eris kind of words. Okay. So personally speaking, where Eris is in your chart, you should ask, where do you need to individuate? What do you stand for? Where do you get to pull down facades? Where do you need to ask people to look at new information? For now, for where Eris is now, look to where 23 and 24 degrees Capricorn and Aries are in your chart for the areas of life being affected by this big third quarter square as we close off the Pluto-Eris cycle. But in your natal chart, where is she natally? Which house is she in? What is she aspecting? Is she strongly aspected? All of these will give you a clue of what tables you are here to shake, what facades you are here to pull down, and what you are here to change and reveal and whistleblow, if you like. So here's just a table of houses. You know, you can see, you can look at this yourself. You can go through again, and if you don't know the houses already, if you create your chart, I would suggest doing it on astro.com if you don't know your own chart, and look at which piece of the pie Eris is in. If you can get the symbol again, looking back at the other parts. As I said, mine is in the third house, and it's about mindset, thinking, speaking, writing style, learning, all that kind of thing. And I ask people to think differently in my book. Also, interactions with siblings. I'm a bit of an outsider amongst the siblings, but there you go. For a few reasons. One more quote. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. And that was Jane Eyre, or herself, kind of a table turner, and her book Charlotte Bronte. So, sorry, in her book Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte wrote it. It's one of my favourite books, Jane Eyre, a very independent woman herself. So you can find me, follow Louise Edington, louiseedington.com. My books, The Complete Guide to Astrology and Modern Astrology, are available on all major booksellers. I have a membership community, and I blog on medium.com/at Louise Edington. I haven't blogged for a little while because I had COVID, and my brain fog was intense. I'm all good now, though. Cosmic Owl Astrology on all social media. You can find me everywhere there. So for now, I'm going to stop the share and say thank you very much for watching. Thanks again to Nadiya. You're amazing. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share to your YouTube followers. And for now, blessings on your path.